Welcome back. There are so many questions being raised after the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump, specifically surrounding political violence here in the U.S. Joining us this morning, Northwestern University communications and polling expert Eric Nisbet with more to kind of dive into this topic. Professor Nisbet, thank you so much for being on the program. We really appreciate it, sir.
Thank you very much.
So you specialize in media, political behavior, observing political violence here in the U.S. Big picture, what do you see as the main implications of this assassination attempt?
The biggest concern is whether violence begets violence. You know, one of the drivers of political violence is thinking that the other side is violent, right? If Democrats think Republicans are violent, they're more willing to engage in violence themselves, and vice versa. So really what I'm be looking to see is how do perceptions about the other side, how violent they are, how's that going to change in the wake of the tragedy on Saturday?
So on that note, we've seen calls for unity, not only from President Biden in his remarks last night, but there were some statements from Donald Trump himself over his social media platform, and Melania Trump as well, among basically most politicians right now, at least in these last 48 hours, calling for unity, calling for the temperature of the political climate to be turned down. What do you make of all those? Are they lip service before we just get back to the status quo?
Unfortunately, I think it'll be a momentary pause in hostilities at best, right? Though Trump and Biden have come out with constructive statements, and others of the the mainstream political leaders, you have allies, Trump allies, already blaming the Biden administration, either for the rhetoric or outright saying it was orchestrated. You have people on the left trending on Twitter that the entire assassination attempt was staged. And so part of the larger sort of information environment we're in, maybe our political leaders are dialing it down, but overall, I don't see any meaningful change.
So let's put this into context as well. There have been assassinations and assassination attempts throughout American history. Given what you've seen, is this the culmination of a recent uptick? Where does this kind of stand historically?
Right. Well, overall, political violence has been interwoven with our history. But what's changed in the last 10 years is more partisan violence, where it's violence based upon our identities of being a Democrat, Republican, and it's targeted. You've seen threats against not only congressional leaders, federal officials grow, but all at the local, state levels as well, which is very concerning, all the way down to the proverbial dog catcher. Right, and targeting both Democrats and Republicans alike.
So there's not a
really,
trend.
This violence is problematic.
And you see it going both ways. There's not one party or side that it's originating from more than the other.
There are threats towards both politicians of both parties. When you actually look at sort of domestic terrorism databases and actually violent acts, you do see more violence on the right than the left, Saturday notwithstanding.
How does social media and kind of the pace of the news cycle and what we're seeing on our phones and Twitter and these kind of micro statements, what is that doing to the dynamic? This is not the 1960s anymore, even though we saw back then the assassinations of RFK, JFK, MLK.
Right. Well, social media, and I would also lay the blame at like hyper-partisan media as well, puts out a lot of dehumanizing language about the other side. If the other side is seen as immoral, if it's a winner-take-all as an existential threat to our political group, then violence becomes almost justified. We still can feel like we are a good person, yet engage in violent acts because the other side is deserving of such. And social media and partisan media play a role in that.
We have seen the pendulum kind of swing in both directions over the decades. Talking big picture here. Short-term wise, do you see things getting worse before they get better? Do you see us ever bottoming out here, or have we reached rock bottom?
Unfortunately, I don't think we've reached rock bottom. And what keeps political scientists and national security experts up at night unfortunately are not the lone wolf incidents. We assume it's a lone wolf at best of our knowledge right now, Saturday's incident, but it's really collective political violence. If we see political violence, that's not necessarily an individual, but a group of people, sort of like we saw on January 6th, whether it's on the left or the right, that is really where we've hit rock bottom and is really could tear apart the country.
Before we let you go, just how do you see this impacting between now and November? What are you going to be looking for in the next in the coming weeks as we prepare for the RNC, which kicks off today, and then the DNC in mid-August?
As I said, we'll have like a momentary pause in hostilities, but really I'm going to look at how is the rhetoric being ramped up? How are allies of Trump and on the right using this to promote their agenda? How are Democrats on the left responding? And really, how is this going to basically impact the reaction to the results of the election?
Yeah.
No matter who wins, does this set the stage for violence based upon who wins in November?
Very good perspective. Eric Nisbet, professor from Northwestern University, thank you so much for your time this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.